and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Devan. The push for a long-awaited India-U.S. trade deal is back in the spotlight. U.S. Ambassador to India, Sergio Gor, has officially taken charge in New Delhi with a high-stakes negotiation call set for tomorrow. In New Delhi today, the new U.S. Ambassador officially took charge and has said that there are three major sticking points which remain. Firstly, the oil pivot. Washington is pushing New Delhi to swap its Russian crude for US-controlled Venezuelan oil. No surprises there. Secondly, US President Donald Trump is reportedly demanding a reciprocity deal that reflects his terms alone. And finally, the optics of family interests, from a $1 billion crypto partnership in Pakistan to Saudi jet deals, the $1.5 billion golf course in Vietnam. What is the reality of the India-U.S. trade talks? We take that conversation forward. Dr. Shahid Kohli, senior economist with us, Professor Madhav Nalapad, the editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, and Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat, with us. Let me begin with Professor Nalapad. Professor Nalapad, on one day, Professor Nalapad, we're being threatened with 500% in tariffs. The next day, the U.S. ambassador to India comes and says that U.S. feels that India is one of the most critical countries to really strike a trade deal with. Professor Nalapad, has the U.S. become really great at just keeping everyone very confused as to where they stand? Is that their overall strategy?
Look, I'll tell you the fact. It will take more than 500 days. Forget about a 500% tariff, it is really an absurdity. It will take more than 500 days to get our refinery, a refinery that's been refining Russian oil, to refine Venezuelan oil. Venezuelan oil is actually very, very heavy. It's more similar to oils in certain states in the United States than it is to the oils that we are used to refining. So frankly, it's a very difficult ask, and I doubt very much that India can abide by that, even if it wanted to, for a simple reason. That is a question of refining capacity and the question of type of refining. Secondly, to threaten a 500% tariff, does that make the individual a good trade partner, or does it just make him an ordinary street bully? And if it's an ordinary street bully, should India kowtow to his bullying? Unfortunately, a few European states have done that, but of course, they got away by making promises that they don't intend to keep. So one way out could be like an Australia-India trade deal. We have two parts to it. One part is the easier to negotiate part, and the other is the hard part, where both sides give extravagant promises, which frankly neither side will have the capacity to meet, much less want to. In my personal view, Devika, this kind of bullying is unacceptable in the modern world. It's unacceptable in the case of a Quad partner, unacceptable when that partner is dealing with a country that's pivotal to security in the Indo-Pacific. Is Trump willing to basically barter India's security and for the benefit of China? I thought he came to the power on the basis of an anti-China plank, instead of which he's doing everything possible to please the Chinese, who are sitting by the sidelines and enjoying the fun. It would be a comedy show were it not happening in real time. So I'd like to say, Devika, there are certain red lines that cannot be crossed, but I think the finesse of the agreements will be cutting it into two parts, with one part being action and the other part consisting of tall promises. For a simple reason, we are not very sure how long Trump will go on in his present state of mind. Either he returns to his previous state of mind, or I think the US Congress is going to act. It's already got a resolution ready, which is going to be voted on in the two chambers of the US Congress in a few days, regarding Trump's Venezuela operation. sharply curtailing his powers. So, very frankly, Devika, a self-respecting country like India will not be subjected to bullying and agree to coercion for simple reason. Tomorrow he can argue for 1,000% tariff. Once you succumb to a bully, the bully keeps coming after you with more and more extravagant demands. There will be no limit to that kind of bullying. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is very well aware of that, and I mean, it's impossible that he will succumb to that kind of bullying. And frankly, Trump has made the U.S. the most unreliable partner in the world for democracies, the most unreliable and the most, if I may say so, welcome for the Chinese. For he is illustrating in real time what the Chinese Communist Party has been saying, which is the US system of government is unworkable, it is chaotic, and that chaos will come sooner or later. Well, it's come now, and
Yes.
she must be very, very happy at the chaos.
Absolutely. Professor Nalpat, thank you for that assessment. A very interesting point there raised about China. Before I come to the bullying aspect of it, Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, I have to understand from you. Like I said, very interesting point there raised by Professor Nalpat, because that's what all of us thought, right? When it was Trump 1.0, there was a lot of camaraderie, there was a lot of India-U.S. resetting ties, etc. All of that happened. And then when he came back once again, there was a feeling, I know, amongst a lot of Indians who felt, oh, this could be really great once again for India-US ties, because here's a president who really has his priorities set. Because pre-elections, a lot of focus was on the Quad, on Indo-Pacific, on the Chinese threat. We will not let China take Taiwan, so on and so forth. There was a lot of chatter about that. But the moment Trump has come back, it's as though, as Professor Nalapat said, he's completely forgotten about what China is up to. He has clearly set a precedent for China to do something in Taiwan. And now his focus has shifted to Venezuela, to Russia, to accumulating oil for the US, to Iran. What is the man really up to? Why do you think there's been such a dramatic, almost a 180 turn as far as foreign policy and foreign priorities are concerned? What's happened in your assessment?
Devika, for I guess leaderships of different countries to deal with such unpredictable situations is not easy at all. The paradigms have been shifted. The entire game has changed completely. So, from the Indian perspective, I guess what we have to do is take the longer term perspective and see how to ride this out. To tide over this period, which is going to create a lot of disruptions for the world and for India. But when I sit here in Washington DC, when I talk to a large number of people who are dealing with the strategic aspects, the security aspects, the congressmen, the senators, across both the parties, there is tremendous amount of bipartisan support for US-India relations. There's tremendous amount of understanding, and they are absolutely united in the sense that the way ahead for US is to have good strategic ties, good defense ties, good economic ties, and good relationship with India to face the challenges which the US is facing currently, both externally and internally. Because it's not that US is not without challenges, there are a lot of challenges. So to that extent, it is a matter of time before things start getting a little bit better. But during this period, yes, I guess we have to be, vigilant. We have to be careful. We have to also keep the dialogue going, also keep the conversation going. Now that the ambassador of US in India has taken charge, it will be a good communication channel, because he used to work directly with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. He was also in charge of the human resources besides his other assignments and work that he did with President Trump. So he knows the president very, very closely, and he has the ear of the president. So we have to see how to leverage that, presence of the US ambassador Sergio Gor in Delhi now, to establish some sort of communication, because the paradigms are very different now, as we have seen in the case of Pakistan. So the specifications, the requirements, the sort of what they expect from other countries, that is all very different now. That is all very changed. It's sort of a Monroe Doctrine back now as Donroe Doctrine, as it is also been named by some of the strategic people, Donroe being Donald Trump. So it's not going to be an easy ride either for America or for India. But the midterm elections are due in the month of November. Already the approval ratings for the Republicans have fallen to 33%. The inflation is high, the costs are high. So internally, there is, of course, a little bit of worry, a lot of panic, and they are trying to see how they can get back the American voters, because the American voters are going to vote according to their purses also, according to their expenses also. So for the Republicans to expect a good result is not going to be easy. And if it is not a good result, then for the administration to continue in a strong fashion as it has been doing in the first year will be very difficult. It may become a lame duck presidency, or it could, in other scenarios have been predicted here. The president himself talked about how he could be impeached by both the houses this time, because if they lose the majorities in the houses and in the Senate, if they get knocked out even more, then he has also told the Republicans that you better start working hard, because if we lose the houses, the impeachment will start immediately. So that sort of scenario is also there. And with Pakistan, we have seen about the cryptocurrency, the other sort of offering itself. Now, how they get access to those minerals and rare earths and oil and gold and Shangri-La after trampling upon Baluchis is yet to be seen. But I would leave it that it's a topic which is still evolving. It is very open-ended even now, and we should try to keep our put our best foot forward, negotiate sincerely, see how to try strike a trade deal, so that this threat of 500%, which a lot of people in India are dismissing as flippant, is not necessarily so, because it could be used temporarily if it passes the required they are able to muster the required support here, and if it is approved, then the president has the authority to implement it or to waive it. And 3 countries are currently on that the mention of that, and it may be applied selectively to India for a short while or whatever, because they want to put a lot of pressure on India to align India more closely with US, to sync India more closely with US in defense procurement and weapons purchases and planes, warplanes, etc., etc. Plus to delink it more and more from Russia and Russian oil, plus to delink it from BRICS. So they have laid out a clear charter for India to follow. It's not going to be easy for any country to sort of follow that to a T, but you have to keep on negotiating, keep on discussing, and seeing what is in the best interest of US, what is in the best interest of India, and what is in the best interest of US-India relations, and what is in the best interest of the world. Thank you, Devika.
All right, Gautam Mukherjee, bringing you in on the same point, I have to understand from you, a huge part, in fact, of President Donald Trump's first term was the tariff war with China. And I think somewhere that also indicated to a lot of people in India that maybe potentially this is a good time for India, the US, Australia and Japan to really come together. And that's how, we've been discussing Quad for a long time. I don't see any conversation about Quad anymore whatsoever. It's almost like it didn't exist. But keeping that aside, in your assessment, what really has changed as far as the second term is concerned? Donald Trump comes into power on the promise that he's going to really revive the American economy. He's going to pull it out of debt. And then he begins this whole sort of a financial war with a lot of countries imposing tariffs and bullying. But what really changed? Has he somewhere realized that if he wants to, in the long run, counter China, he has to get his hands on a lot of critical assets across the world?
Well, Devika, the main thing is America is bankrupt. Not once, but many times over. It owes colossal amount, $37 trillion. It is servicing it at the rate of $3 trillion a year. It is an unsupportable situation. The only way it is possible is with the printing of notes and the use of the dollar as a global currency. Now, there are various challenges that have emerged to the dollar being the currency of trade for the whole world. China has been trading in oil with Iran, with Saudi Arabia on occasion, with Venezuela in yuan. India has also been using its currency on a bilateral basis with a number of countries. The BRICS is trying to go the way of a gold standard and a new currency. So all of this is threatening the fragile situation economically that America is in. So his emphasis on tariffs is a stopgap and is actually damaging America more than many of the countries that he has imposed tariffs on. And in addition to that, the road ahead means that either you get hold of resources or at least withhold resources from those who are undermining your dollar economy, as in Venezuela, Iran, or you are going to be deeper in the mire. So this is bothering him. His intelligence briefs, which he receives every morning, Mr. Trump, are very different from the kind of information available to a candidate or when you're not in power. So his priorities keep shifting because of the desperation that America finds itself in. Neither are its armaments being bought all that widely. Most of it is having to be financed by America itself, including NATO. So, he is making moves on Greenland after Venezuela. He will probably do everything in his power to affect a regime change, possibly back to the Shah in Iran. As far as India goes, it's a blow hot, blow cold situation. Some of it is, quite warm because I do believe India has done some work to bring America closer to Russia. Russia has supported the Greenland Initiative, which is interesting to note. After all, Russia is the only country active in the Arctic Circle in the extraction of oil. The others have their rights to do so, the small countries on the littoral, but none of them have actually proceeded to do so. Russia has also been making other fairly favorable statements vis-a-vis America, and I do believe India's had something to do with that, probably behind the scenes. So it isn't exactly what it appears to be. That's why Gor comes in saying nice things about India. The stock market goes up immediately. The deal, the FTA or the interim trade deal, I think will be done very shortly, which will take a lot of the speculation out of what is he trying to do to India. Now, there are various, as you have listed, there are various roadblocks that may or may not be used in a rigid manner. From the Indian side, we want this 50% gone, 25% reduced to 15%, 500% when it comes, and if it comes is another matter. But if the deal is signed, then 500 will look less threatening to the Indian side at any rate. And I do believe They're also moving on the GE engines for the Tejas aircraft. So it's a blow hot, blow cold situation without any reason for India to be excessively alarmed. Devika.
Okay. On that note, let me bring in Sharad into the conversation as well. So, Sharad, when we talk about not cowing down to US pressure or bullying, I want to understand from you, in your assessment, what does that truly mean? What can India do at this point in time, except for just stalling the deal? And of course, we're having a lot of the negotiations are going on, is what we've been told. But there are a lot of petty statements that continue to come in from the United States of America and from very high-ranking officials of the US as well. But if we were to keep all of that aside and just focus on Indian interests right now, what is it that we can truly do to ensure that we don't have to cow down to any sort of pressure, realistically speaking?
Well, Devika, I don't think we need to do anything right now. You know, with the way things are shaping up, he's the one making statements. He's the one who's changing statements. He's the one changing the parameters. You know, we have invented in the world of finance and economics, that might sound a bit amusing. There is something called EBITDA, where companies and the businesses, they calculate their profits. It's called earning before interest, depreciation, and taxes. You know what we call it now? Earnings before interest, taxes, and Donald Trump's devastating announcements. That's a new expansion of EBITDA. For the people in finance, they must be knowing. So, well, this man, God knows what he's up to. As far as India's stance is concerned, we have already started finding new markets as far as exports are concerned, Devika. We are finding newer markets. Our exporters are on their course. Well, there are setbacks. Textiles, gems and jewelry are two of the industries that I know which have suffered the most, at this point of time, because even at 50%, people might be surprised to know that even at 50%, some of our textile exports, garment exports were happening. And the way it was happening was that some hit the importers had taken, and some discounts, deep discounts, our exporters had accepted, that at least the export continues to grow, because 6 rounds of talks, every time there was a round, there was a hope that something might come out. But little did they know that our representatives and their representatives, while they were talking, there was another man who was calling shots, irrespective of what the dialogue was. Because there was now we realize as an afterthought that there was no point of this dialogue, because somebody else had to take a decision altogether in a different manner. And then he finally said that, why didn't Prime Minister Modi make me a phone call? Well, one good thing which came out of it was that at least the basic discussions were successful. Just that, something called EGO, the ego came in the way. And he said he should have made a phone call to me, when everything was finalized. And then came the 500% tariff announcement. I think it all sounds very weird. We have Ambassador Kapoor here, who's a very seasoned diplomat. I'm sure he spent all his life in being an ambassador, being placed at various positions. But I'm not sure if he's seen something like this in his career before. Someone making these kind of statements, someone taking this kind of stance. This is way beyond diplomacy. At least I haven't seen this kind of diplomacy all my life as an observer. But for India, I think India just needs to sit quiet. And we've done the best. We've kept the doors open. We've kept the dialogue on. Even today, I mean, we have not made any rash statements. We have not made any statements which are irresponsible, which defy the laws of diplomacy. We have not done anything of that sort, and we will not do, because let somebody be very, very bullying in his approach. It is up to him what he wants to do. But one thing which is for sure, that the American economy, Devika, is not in a good shape. I must inform Gautam also that the total debt now is close to 39 trillion. 37
Yes.
trillion is what it used to be a couple of months ago. But every time, we speak, it has gone up. It is now close to 39 trillion, which is a huge, huge number. 130% is the debt to GDP ratio of US as of now. It's fine for a president to be thinking of the economy. try to bring in investments and money to the economy to make sure that this debt is repaid. But the methodology being employed for getting this money is definitely not correct. You're looking at rare earth minerals of Greenland. You're looking at oil of Venezuela. But it is not as simple and smooth as it appears. Greenland, we all know 7 nations of Europe have already stood up and it's going to break NATO. NATO is on the verge of breaking up any time, any day. And if this misadventure happens in Greenland by force, he says, I'll take it easy way or the hard way. Well, obviously, we all know what hard way is. Go and invade Greenland and just seize the power. And Denmark is not going to be happy. And a lot of other European nations are standing with Denmark. NATO is going to break up. NATO was, and I think that will give Russia one upmanship because Russia is waiting for NATO to break up. And another very confusing aspect is President Trump favoring Russia by telling President Zelensky that, okay, fine, give up your land and buy peace or whatever. So he's so worried about Russia that Russia should not get disappointed. And on the other side, he wants to impose 500% tariffs when India is buying oil from Russia. So he should first decide whether he's a friend of Russia or he's being very kind to Russia, or is he trying to be an enemy of Russia? I think he has to probably take a call on that.
Okay.
What exactly does he want to do? Same goes for China, Devika. China, sometimes he has a soft corner. Sometimes he's totally opposed to China. So I'm also seeing a lot of confusion in the whole approach, and it is causing chaos around the world as we speak now. A very interesting aspect, which is slightly off the guard. As we speak now, the gold prices and silver prices, thanks to President Trump, people who made money on gold and silver, they have one reason to thank one person, President Trump. $4,627, silver at $85 per ounce, all-time high. I think I would personally, as a finance expert, I would like to thank President Trump. Well, people have made a lot of money out of this. All this is because of the uncertainty, instability being caused geoeconomically and geopolitically, Devika.
All right, and that's where I had even started this debate from, and it seems that till we sign that trade deal, unfortunately, that's all that all of us will be thinking, that the US has somewhere become very, very good at just keeping all of us very confused. But of course, we have to be very clear in our minds that we work for our own national interest. On that note, I thank all of our guests for joining us to take this conversation forward.